exactly 1 week away from Christmas. My name is Elliot. If we haven't had the pleasure of meeting, I'm an intern here at Church Where You Are, and I'm so excited to get into today's devotion with you. Today's devotion is titled Everlasting Father. But before we get into the devotion this morning, let me know where you're joining in from. We have people from all over the country that get to join in on the Church Where You Are community, and just let me know. Put it in the chat where you're joining us this morning from, or wherever you're watching. You can be watching in the evening or in the morning, just whenever you are. Let us know where you're from. The first thing that the devotional mentions is the sacrifice of Jesus. And see, that sacrifice, according to the devotion, was a gateway. It was a breaking down the barrier between God and us. It was a way for us to get connected with Him and have true relationship. See, that is a very controversial topic in certain areas, because some say that Jesus laid His life down so we have access to the Father. In fact, the devotional even brought this up, but I think it's more than that. I think not only did Jesus sacrifice Himself for access to the Father, but so we can have a relationship with the Father. It's more than we have the right to communicate with Him. We have the right to the relationship. And that relationship gives us the benefits of being in family with Christ. Not only are we His followers, we're His family members. And that brings great benefits. We have great benefits because we are a part of God's family. In fact, benefits that we don't even deserve. But not only does being in relationship, being a family member to Christ, mean that we get to enjoy the benefits, but we also take on a lot of responsibility. Not responsibility that should scare us, but that should honor us. We have the responsibility to lead people that aren't with Christ to Christ. We have the responsibility to take the hearts of the people that have turned their backs on Christ or just don't know who He is and show them who He is. We have the access, the benefit, and the responsibility to lead people that are far from Christ to Christ, to show them the joy which is following God. The devotion this morning mentions the prodigal son and uses that example. And again, it's long enough for the sake of time. I'm not going to break down every single verse, but I am going to read the whole prodigal son from Luke 15 verses 11 through 32 and give a little recap on it. Starting in verse 11, Jesus told them this story. A man had 2 sons. The younger son told his father, I want my share of your estate now before you die. So his father agreed to divide his wealth between his 2 sons. A few days later, this younger son packed all his belongings and moved to a distant land. And there he wasted all his money in wild living. About this time, his money ran out, a great famine swept over the land, and he began to starve. He persuaded a local farmer to hire him, and the man sent him into his fields to feed the pigs. The young man became so hungry that even the pods he was feeding the pigs looked good to him. But no one gave him anything. When he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, at home even the hired servants have had enough food to spare, and here I am dying of hunger. I will go home to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against both you and heaven, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. I want to read that part one more time. I will go home to my father and say, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. I'm going to come back to that. I just want you to think on that verse one more time. The prodigal son, the younger son, believed that he was no longer worthy of being called his father's son. Continuing on, verse 20. So he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him, Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you. and I am no longer worthy of being called your son." But his father said to the servants, "Quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet. And kill the calf we have been fattening. We must celebrate with a feast. For this son of time was dead and now has returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found." So the party began. Meanwhile, the older son was in the fields working. When he asked one of his servants what was going on, "Your brother is back," he was told, "and your father has killed the fattened calf. We are celebrating because of his safe return." The older brother was angry and wouldn't go in. His father came out and begged him, but he replied, "All these years I've slaved for you and never once refused to do a single thing you told me to do. And all that time you never gave me even one young goat for a feast with my friends. Yet when this son of yours came back after squandering your money on prostitutes, you celebrate by killing the fattened calf." His father said to him, "Look, dear son, you have always stayed by me, and everything I have is yours. We had to celebrate this happy day, for your brother was dead and has come back to life. He was lost, and now he is found." See this example of the prodigal son, a son that thought he was no longer worthy of his father's love because of what he'd done. He knew he was in the wrong. He knew he was given a gift, the gift of his inheritance, something that he thought was earned to him, thought that he had the right to have. He knew he took advantage of it, and he knew he had lost it. So much to the point that he thought not only did he lose the wealth he was given, but he lost the right to be called his father's son. How many of us have felt that way with God? How many of us have let our sin drive us away to the God, almost to the point we think we're no longer worthy of coming back to the Father for our love? Almost to the point that we don't try to pursue God anymore. We believe that we have put up this wall that even God and ourselves can't remove. Hebrews 13 verse 8 says, "Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever." What that means for you and I is when he said, "I love you," when he said, "I want you to be with me as a family member. I want you to be in a relationship with me." He meant that for when you were in your great season, when you're in your lowest season, and whatever season you find yourself in currently. He meant those words, that he wants to be in family with you. Not in connection, but so far to call you his child. And he wants that for you no matter what season you're in. God always gives us more than we ask for. Sometimes we don't like that. And I know that sounds good. In this light, that sounds great. More than we ask for. When we ask for good things, that means we get more of it. But sometimes that more that he gives us can be more responsibility, more than we think that we can handle, more on our plate when we already have a busy schedule. But God always gives us more than we can ask for. It's just on his time and not our time. So again, if you're in the season of your life where you think that you're so far away from God, or the things you've done has brought you to a point where you're no longer worthy of Christ's love, remember that he is the same always. We are not. Our emotion throw it off. The season we're in throws us off. Loss throws us off. I don't know what season you're in currently, but I do know that when Christ said he loved you, he meant for every single season you're going to go through. Regardless of our experiences, we are invited into relationship. Regardless of what we have done, what we have said, things that we believe that pushes us so far away from God that we no longer are worthy to come back, he still loves us. He still meets you right where you are. So I have a challenge this morning. And again, I've pointed this out in current devotions, but if you're just joining us for the first time, anything that I ask you to do, I've done. Anything that I'm going to ask you to do, either I'll do it on camera or I've done it before I do this devotion. So I did this challenge myself, and I'm going to ask you to do it, not in the chat, but just with you and God. I want you to write down that thing that you believe separates you from God to the point where you no longer deserve His love. And if you believe in all your heart that you don't have one of those things, that's great. I'm incredibly happy for you. But if you find yourself in that season, or you've been in that season in the past where you believe you've done something or said something or something has happened to you that is so far to believe that you cannot come back to God, I challenge you to write that down. Write it down. And this may take all day, this may take a week, it may take a month or a year. But I challenge you to write that thing down. Something that you believe you have done or has happened to you that separates you to the point where you no longer deserve the love of the Father. And I want you to take whatever you wrote that down on, and I want you to get rid of it. And I mean in a physical sense. I want you to tear it up, throw it away, burn it, whatever you have to do. I want you to release that thing, and I want you to believe in your heart that that thing can be cleansed by God. That thing may be to the point where you no longer can tear it down, but our God, He tears walls down. He breaks down the walls of our tradition. He breaks down the walls of things that we can't even see over. So again, I want you to take whatever that is, and again, this doesn't have to be public, and I don't want you to put it in the chat, but I want you to write it down, and I want you to get rid of it. And in that season, again, I'm not going to ask you specifically what to pray for, but maybe just ask God. Ask God to free you from that thing. Ask God to cleanse you of those memories. And of course, you're going to remember it. Things that you've done in the past, it doesn't work that way. It's not okay, I'm never going to think about this thing again. But the next time you think about it, let God just cleanse you of that. Let God remove that from your heart, and let Him show you that He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. The same God that loved you in your best season loves you in your worst season. So I want you to physically get rid of that note however you choose, and just let that burden be removed from your shoulders by the power of God, not by your power. Would you pray with me from the devotion? Thank you, Jesus, for your perfect example of what a father should be. Soften my heart to receive the truth of knowing that the heart of this season is you, and your heart in this season is for me. You are a good Father, and thank you so much for taking the time to join with me in this scripture. Well, for all the church where you are communities out there, this may have seemed as a down daily. It didn't pump you up or get you excited, but this Christmas season should be about renewal. This Christmas season should be about removing the things that we built up, the things that believe we have our walls between God, the things that we believe that cannot be broken. Maybe it can't be broken by your ability, but it can be broken by God's ability. He loves us right where we are. Thank you so much for joining me this morning in the Daily, and I would encourage you to come back tomorrow for our next one. I'll see you at the same time and same place tomorrow. Have a great day.